Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today, I am naming the top 5 lore revelations from the Dawn of Fire finale, The Silent King. Obviously a spoiler warning here to begin, as I will be referencing events from the Dawn of Fire series novel The Silent King, by author Guy Hayley. As always, I really recommend you read the stories for yourself first, without spoilers, as that's the best way to enjoy the lore for yourself. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. Okay, so the past couple of weeks has seen the end of the Dawn of Fire series with the arrival of the Silent King, finally finishing it off and leading us into the Dark Imperium trilogy, and whatever current events lie beyond. Expectedly, Guilliman's crusade across the Rift. And as you'll probably know, I've raved about the Silent King novel since I read it, absolutely loving it, and really feeling like it was the best installment of the series. And I'm loving analysing the key moments within and breaking them down like usual. However, today, I wanted to have a broader conversation on the 5 biggest lore revelations or takeaways that I personally found from the novel. The ones that could perhaps have the biggest repercussions as we move forward. And so, let's digress no more, with my number 1 lore revelation from the Silent King, Belisarius Cawl, confirming he has been working on all 20 Legion gene lines. Like all these things, it's something I'm definitely going to focus on more in depth in another conversation. However, we know Cawl was given the Sancprimus Portum by Guilliman 10,000 years ago, that he was secretly tasked to try and improve the Emperor's Space Marine template, including ironing out the instability or flaws of some of the more deviant lines, such as the Blood Angels and Space Wolves. However, as we've seen since Guilliman's return, Belisarius has made it clear how eager he is to include the traitor Primarch gene lines as well. Of course denied by Guilliman. And of course we've been teased with Primarchs chapters bearing eerie similar hallmarks to the original traitor legions too, furthering that intrigue. And yet now here within the Silent King, as Cawl is ranting about how much he has to do, he directly makes the quote, "Recode the genomes of 20 lines of Space Marines, Cawl." Now you could argue this is a slip of the tongue or exaggeration on Cawl's part, and it's not concrete proof Guilliman ordered Cawl to look at all 20 lines despite the quotes, but it is, in my opinion, evidence Belisarius has been working on all 20 lines, even those of the 2 lost Primarchs and Legions. Again, we'll talk about this more in depth another time. However, what a possibility that is, that there could be secret lost Primarch chapters out there within plain sight. However, next moving on, the next big lore revelation for me was that even Belisarius Cawl fears Roboute Guilliman's ambition and plans for the Imperium. It's long been the biggest knock against Roboute since the Horus Heresy, that he just wants to be the Emperor himself, or build his own empire. It's why Lionel Johnson distrusts him so. And we've seen all the trouble he has within the power bases within the Imperium right now. However, the one person you thought wouldn't and didn't have a problem with Guilliman, knowing him perhaps as well as anyone in this current galaxy, is Belisarius Cawl. However, that appears to very much not be the case anymore, as post the debacle against the Necrons and the Silent King, as Belisarius meets Guilliman in private, he spies the map of Guilliman's intended expansion to Ultramar, the one he goes on to mention and reveal in Dark Imperium. And it's made clear, despite Belisarius's faith and trust in the Primarch, seeing the map and intention laid bare does, for the first time ever, seed doubt within Belisarius towards Guilliman's intent. Call had not thought for a moment that Guilliman wished to usurp his father's throne, as certain parties within the Imperium feared. But seeing that map gave him pause, and despite his choice of brash personality, he felt the cold clutch of unease around his mechanical hearts. And that is no mere mention or passage for the sake of it there. It is very intentionally letting us know that even Call, someone who works hand in hand with Guilliman, is beginning to fear what Guilliman intends to do. The repercussions of his actions. As it was then, it is now. Guilliman's ambition being his undoing. And next, moving on, Roboute clearly wants to establish an alliance with the Aeldari. Yes, he's had Ilian Nataze on his council and as an advisor before, or at least we've seen it before within the Dark Imperium trilogy. Yes, we have seen him speak and listen to the Eldar for advice. However, here it's really taken to the next level, in Guilliman relying on the Aeldari to intervene in the conflict, to save him, and earlier even makes a comment revealing how he wants the Aeldari to survive. A direct contradiction to the foundation of the Imperium, that the galaxy belongs to humanity, and humanity alone. I know full well that the sole purpose of your caste is to ensure the survival of the Asciani Aeldari. I would that they did survive, for you are a noble people. And if we were to have the time and space without these endless wars, I am sure some accord could be met between our species. So it's becoming clearer and clearer. The longer Guilliman remains in charge, the closer the relationship and ties with the Aeldari will become. How well the rest of the Imperium responds to that, however, well, only time will tell. On to number 4, the revelation that Mars, and in truth the Adeptus Mechanicus, is a complete and utter mess. Not only is it revealed here that the Mechanicus has been hiding and lying about the Necron threat, all in a quest to acquire more Blackstone for themselves, but they have been losing that war against the Necrons too. A war that they started. And even worse, they're still up to their old tricks, with the Magos Sobel Fee, who was the one who had come grovelling to Guilliman for help, then going to Belisarius Call and secretly trying to get him to take more power within the Mechanicus, to further their efforts to throw off the power of terror. Because of course the Mechanicus know the Golden Throne is failing, and that they can't fix it. And so as far as they're concerned, there is only civil war upon the horizon. And so it's a mess. Mars and the Mechanicus are a real mess. Far worse than we ever really knew in truth. Appealing for unity to Guilliman's face, only to preach and scheme for independence behind it. And there is absolutely only going to be more to come. The Mechanicus just can't help themselves, and it could very well be their undoing. There is trouble upon the horizon for the Mechanicus, Mark my words, there is trouble upon the horizon. And the fifth final big lore revelation for me is that it appears the other loyal Primarchs may well be taking the blame for the downfall of the Imperium. It's a small passage that may well have gone unnoticed by many, but in a little piece of reflection by Sicarius, it clearly states that once Guilliman was in stasis after his loss to Fulgrim, the other loyal Primarchs who remained caused damage either intentionally or unintentionally to the Imperium. While he languished in stasis, his brothers had vanished, wreaking damage on one institution or another through their rivalries, petty disputes and obsessions before they were done. While he slept, the Imperium slipped from decline into ruin. Now, this is obviously a very biased source in Sicarius, and it's highly unlikely he has any knowledge whatsoever of what went on back during the Scouring years. And I can't see any of the Primarchs really doing things like that, if I'm honest. Especially when we know Russ, for example, was just leading his chapter back on Fenris, not having anything to do with the wider Imperium anymore. However, it could well be a tease of things to come. Things we are going to see transpire during the Scouring series. The remaining Primarchs post Guilliman, whoever they may turn out to be, being more forceful in their actions with the loss of the Lord Commander. And well, that's it. That's my top 5 of the biggest lore takeaways from the Silent King for me. Of course, there's many more questions to ask and revelations and mentions within, but I just found those 5 particularly interesting, the ones that stood out for me. And the ones we'll definitely be talking about more in depth as well. As always, everyone, leave your thoughts in the comments below. A huge thank you to all my subscribers. Your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too? But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.